Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a profoundly fascinating and frankly, beautifully dark tale of cosmic struggle. Imagine for a moment that you are looking down from the cosmos. I'm going to take on the detached, celestial viewpoint of the moon's spirit to guide you through this grim, dark, gothic fable. We're looking at the ultimate showdown between burning ambition and absolute stillness, all set against a creeping doom known as the Great Evening.
So picture this. I am the moon's spirit, the Silver Eye, perpetually watching over a decaying metropolis known as the City of Mirrors in the Mud. Down there, every single rain-slicked alley reflects not just the dim, dying light, but hidden dread and deep cosmic mystery. You can practically feel the damp, oppressive atmosphere of a world that is just waiting for its own end.
And from this massive celestial height, I watch what the lore calls the frantic doings of men. You know, whether a soul is considered noble because it fights and struggles, or totally ignoble because it just quietly surrenders, well, from up here, it really doesn't matter. To the Silver Eye, all these actions are just brief, insignificant flickers in the raw, consuming potential of the void. I weave the threads of the builders and the binders with absolute, total indifference.
Section 1. The Forge and the Frost. Two paths to the end. Let's look at the two great opposing forces locked in a relentless struggle below my silver gaze.
First up, we have the domain of the Red Spectre. This entity runs on what's called the logic of the crucible. It's an agonizing, fiery process designed to fuel a relentless spirit of becoming. The Red Spectre literally wants to take the dull lead of history and melt it down using the pure fire of imagination. So we're talking about a path of constant, exhausting transformation.
Now, on the complete opposite side, we find the Monument of Stagnation. The monument uses Apollonian gaskets, which are these constructs of rigid, frozen logic that tap straight into the Thanatos drive, the drive toward death and stillness. The whole goal here is to bind the fluid spirit and force a final, permanent stop to all internal friction. It offers the promise of absolute, freezing cold peace.
This completely nails the core philosophical clash of our fable. On the left side, you've got the Red Spectre's transient energy, that burning ambition. And on the right, the monument is offering the hollow perfection of cold stillness. It is the classic, eternal battle between the Forge and the Frost.
If we listen closely to the text, we can actually hear the Red Spectre crying out into the void. This is an entity that was once a nihilistic executioner, but now bellows as a guardian of authentic values, saying, "I must destroy and rebuild the self." It's this desperate, bright energy trying to forge a life-affirming mythos just to act as a shield against the inevitable dark.
But in a stark, whispering response, the Monument of Stagnation offers a totally different kind of salvation. It tempts the weary, saying, "Accept the mercy of the cold stone. Become pious cows of contentment, grazing within a tomb of your own making." And the tragedy is, these seekers mistake their terminal decay for the eternal peace of the stars.
Here is the real kicker, though. To a celestial watcher like the moon spirit, both of these paths, the exhausting internal struggle of the Forge and the heavy silence of the Frost, they ultimately mean absolutely nothing. This hollow perfection and the relentless spirit of becoming are, at the end of the day, just two different ways the void consumes the light. They're two different routes leading to the exact same destination.
Section 2. The Liquefaction, High-Energy Flux. As the event known as the Great Evening deepens, the constant dialogue between the Forge and the Frost agitates the atmosphere, causing the city itself to liquefy.
Inside this terrifying high-energy flux, a massive transformation takes place. An entity known as the Ghastly Ghoul drops his static form, literally melting down to become the spirit wraith of living ink. He's a predatory shadow now, prowling this liquefied city. And his terrifying goal? To rewrite the erasure of the self directly onto the souls of the weary travelers wandering through the mud.
Section 3. Enter the Plasma Being, Fire and Frost. Simultaneously, a creature of pure plasma crystallizes, representing a totally chaotic synthesis of the Spectre's imagination and the monument's detachment.
This plasma being throws a chaotic spark of mischief right into a land state that was previously defined only by petrification and struggle. It actively disrupts the frozen order of the Gilded Cages. It completely refuses to accept either the structured agony of the Forge or the absolute stillness of the Frost. It's pure, unpredictable, volatile flux.
I watch as this entity systematically dismantles the old order. First, it shatters the mirrors of the hollow souls, completely breaking that deceptive mirage of movement that tricks travelers into thinking they're actually ascending. Next, it dances through the twisted roots of history to actively mock those pious cows of contentment who just accepted the cage. And finally, its high-energy presence threatens those hollow terminal tombs with raw, chaotic potential.
Section 4. The Descent into the Void. The metaphorical bridge that broke is finally crossed, but the struggle merely evolves into a hunt between the liquid void of the wraith and the chaotic spark of the plasma being.
From my celestial vantage point, the ultimate futility of all this is so clear. Those sovereign laws violently inscribed by the Wraith, they are utterly meaningless. They're literally just contracts written in disappearing ink. And the brilliant, desperate fires of the Red Spectre? Yeah, they too will eventually gasp their last breath, suffocating in the total static stagnation of the end.
So whether a soul courageously chooses the agony of continuous transformation or just quietly surrenders to the silence of the cage, the result is exactly the same. All those earthly distinctions of what's noble and what's ignoble, they just dissolve into nothingness. They fade completely into the silver reflection of the mud as the great evening finally falls.
As my silver gaze turns away from this dying city, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to take away from this explainer. Knowing that both paths eventually dissolve into the void, what path are you carving for yourself? As the great evening consumes the light, do you burn to forge a life-affirming mythos, or will you accept the cold mercy of a tomb of your own making? Think on that.